everyone. I am Becca the Book Dragon, and I have with me today my special guest, Rachel Lewis, who is an indie animator and director. This is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be focusing so much on books today. Today is all about animation and the indie animation industry that has found a brand new audience on the YouTube platform. So I'm going to have some questions for you based on what I have researched about you and the companies that you worked for and so on and so forth. Are we ready?
Yeah, thanks for having me on,
Awesome.
Becca.
You're very, very welcome. And I'm so glad that David introduced me to you.
Of
So
course.
first of all, for those of us that do not know you, where were you born and raised?
In Australia, in Sydney, I came to America for the animation industry about 10 years ago.
How old were you when you saw your first animated film or television show?
I can't remember, so like earlier than I can form memories, I guess. Like, I think I was definitely raised by cartoons a bit.
Okay. Okay. Is there a particular film or television show that you can recall from the earliest time?
Yeah, there was actually a few, I guess, shows that were important to me in my childhood. They're like similar to a lot of people over the world, but there were some specific Australian ones that I really liked. A lot of stop motion stuff that I think had a lot of grants, like art grants from the government at the time. So it kind of like went on Australian TV. Like there was a really great short series called Plasmo, which I was obsessed with, which is a little short Australian series about a little alien, stop motion alien that doesn't have any parents. And I really connected to that as a child.
What was the spark or the aha moment when you decided to become an animator? Like when did that come to fruition for you?
Um, Probably when I was like an early teenager, I guess, like 13 or 14. And I still like only watched animation. I drew in my spare time. And I remember my dad just coming to me one day and he was like, "Oh, you can do that as a career." And from that moment forward, I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to be an animator." Like there wasn't any other thing I really desired more than that.
You got your college education at Charles Sturt University, majoring in animation and visual effects. Which animation software programs that you learned do you continue to use today and incorporate in your own animated series of Cassie Loves Cooking?
Um, Toon Boom Harmony, I learned that in my third year of that degree. And at the time, it was like kind of a new software that was in like 2009-ish, when I think most of the big studios were just adopting that for their 2D pipelines. And I'm a 2D animator, so I only just picked the software up again now that I'm making an indie show. Throughout my career, I actually used a lot more Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate, um, which I love. It's still very widely used, and we learned that in college too. But Harmony is the one I kind of came back around to for this project.
So this is a two-part question based off of Charles Sturt University.
Mhm.
Do you have any books on animation that you held on to after college or in general? And if so, which of those books is a staple for you and why?
Not the physical copies because I have moved all over the world and bringing a bunch of books with me wasn't really a good idea. So the one I still have a digital copy of is the Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams. And that's like the gold standard still. It has been for many years for just like learning the principles of animation. And I still go back to it. Like certain parts of animation are really hard, walk cycles are really hard always, and that book helps me out every single time.
I actually have the physical copy of that same book here. So
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
the one you'd recommend to anyone. It's a great book.
Okay, well that definitely answers one of the questions. Yeah. So I'm sorry, you said you made the move to America about 10 years ago, so that was what, around like 2016?
Yeah, I think early 2016 is when I came. And I'm a dual citizen, so I was very lucky. Like, if I wanted to chase my dreams being an animator in the US, I could. So I took the opportunity.
Okay. Were you actually hoping to work in any of the major animation film companies like Disney or DreamWorks?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But um, that was 10 years ago, and my life kind of went in a different direction for a lot of different reasons.
I mean, if you could, which of those animation studios would you have wanted to work for and why?
Um, DreamWorks actually, but I've always been a 2D animator and they do primarily 3D. But there is
Mhm.
always room for 2D in a lot of 3D pipelines. Like a lot of test animations or pre-visualizations are done in 2D. Um, and at that time when I moved, I still was holding on to a 3D toolset, which I had used previously, but I always liked 2D. I ended up doing 2D. Um, and yeah, it would have been Universal. I do like a lot of their movies over, I guess, Pixar stuff.
Hmm.
Um, if you're talking about like big 3D movies, just because I find them really funny and less formulaic.
So, and that's actually another question that was gonna come up later, but I will ask you now. Why do you prefer 2D animation over 3D animation?
Just because I'm good at it. I guess I don't really prefer it as a medium. Like if I was to watch animation, I love 2D, I love 3D. They're both very difficult skill sets to master. I just had the knack for drawing over working in a 3D space. So that's like why I went that direction. It wasn't because I liked 3D any less.
Okay. I see that you had this was a little confusing for me. I see that on your LinkedIn profile page, you had several jobs starting from a senior designer to an associative creative director for this one company, but I'm not sure if this is considered a job title or if it's considered a company. Can you explain what is Smartly IO? What is that?
It is an ad technology platform. Um, So I have worked in a lot of marketing and advertising. Most of my career has been marketing and advertising because there is animation work aplenty in those industries. And it's taken me a very long time to actually break into animation for entertainment, which is I always really wanted to be in. So I went through 8 years of going through marketing and sort of marketing advertising jobs. And Smartly was, or still is, an advertising technology company. So instead of like being an advertising agency that makes like an ad for a company that would commission them, it makes technology for advertising. So think about all that the Facebook ads that you receive and no one likes and is like really intrusive, but they made the technology for that
Okay.
possible. So it wasn't something I was very proud of, but it did pay the bills and allow me to save up money to do what I'm doing right now.
That's cool. In one of your videos, making an animated pilot from your bedroom as to where you are at the moment, you mentioned
Yeah.
that 10 years prior you worked for a small indie company when you started working on Space Cats in space. What was the
Mhm.
inspiration behind that project?
So that wasn't one that I led or directed. Um, I was just the artist on that project, but uh,
Okay.
the people I worked, I mean, with were the ones that created that project primarily, and they said that they really wanted to make an indie game. Indie games were really big at the time. They had the funds to do it, and they really like cats and dogs. They like that dynamic, and they wanted to make a shooter. So it all sort of came together. And a bit of that was also market research, I think. It's like what would get a game sold, even though it didn't really do very well. Like there was thought behind that. Like everyone likes cats and everyone likes shooting things, so smoosh them together, right?
So okay, so you were considered like one of the artists behind it. But that was not your specific project, correct?
No, I mean, it
Okay.
became like an integral part of the team, but I wasn't the director of that project, no.
Okay. So as you promoted Space Cats, the feedback was, and this is your quote, people really loved the silly story of the cats and dogs fighting in space. They loved
Mhm.
the characters and the cartoony vibe, but the actual game was quite serious and skill-based. So, this is kind of a two-part question. Why do you think
Mhm.
people connect to more cartoony vibe versus computer computer generated action battle games. And is there a particular trend that you've noticed?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I can all the way answer that just because I don't know, but I can give it a shot.
Mhm.
Um, there is definitely a market for heavy bullet hell shooter style games. But I just don't know if that market overlaps with the people that might enjoy like cute cats, for example. Um, and where we went to promote it, which would be like conventions, comic conventions, art conventions, those were the people that were really connecting with the cute cat and the art part of it versus like the heavy skill-based games. And I think you have to be like a lot of people play games, but you have to be really this was the kind of game you have to be like really good at shooting
Mm.
style games. And I think that's like a much smaller part of the gaming market. So there's just more people that I think like the cool story about the cats and the dogs versus a much smaller market that would like very hard bullet hell shooting games. And do those markets overlap? Probably not that well. And I think that's what something we learned after the project had wrapped up.
Okay. And this is something that I wanted to delve a little bit further into. You stated that your indie animation pilot and future series, you plan to do crowdfunding like Kickstarter instead of a subscription membership platform like Patreon.
Mhm.
Wouldn't a decision like that require another Kickstarter campaign for each new project that in the series that comes up? And would there be a downside to that?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I've put a lot of thought into. Um, Addressing the Patreon subscription thing, I think it's a very valid way that a lot of artists make money. I think that's great. Um, but we decided to go for Kickstarter over that because we'd have one budget that comes in all at once and we'd know, okay, we have this amount of money to pay our artists continually versus like, oh, 1 month, like we might not have enough money. Like, how do we handle that with people? Um, and reoccurring Kickstarters, yeah, it would be part of the strategy for each episode, unless one episode goes above and beyond and we reach a stretch goal, which is like, oh, we have another several $1,000s. Like, can that fund some of the next episode? It just depends how well the campaign goes. But it definitely won't be just that, because at the end of the day, like we do want to make a little business that can sustain several artists full time. And
Mhm.
that is just going to pay for the episodes, not essentially the business itself. So we will have to branch out eventually, probably into things like merch or syndication if, channels want to pick it up. We never want to like fully give it to a different studio. I definitely want to produce it in-house, but if someone wants to buy the rights or people want to buy merch like that, those are other avenues that we can get people paid and grow a business with.
Right. And that kind of almost answers the next question about from when it comes to other indie animation organizations. But it's like every indie animation organization or show on YouTube is different from the next. But have you seen a pattern where they use one financial platform over others to fund their projects?
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite interesting too, because there are specific film-based financial platforms like Seed and Spark is one that does quite well. But certain industries seem to attach to different crowdfunding platforms. But we decided that we wanted to use Kickstarter because it's the biggest and it inherently has a large audience of people that view campaigns because they're already on Kickstarter. Like there's a lot of people that like to be first adopters to things and they hang out on Kickstarter to look for really cool stuff they want to fund or own or watch. So it's like 30% of all backers just come from Kickstarter as a platform, and that's like a huge bonus to consider versus something that might be a smaller platform like Seed and Spark. But Seed and Spark does have like much more specificity. Like people that are on Seed and Spark are there to fund video projects. So it's sort of like pros and cons, you kind of way. And if Kickstarter works, we might stay, or we might try something else. We just don't know, but we're going to go Kickstarter for ours.
Okay. What are some of your favorite indie animation shows that you've seen?
That's such a good question. There are just so many like really cool ones. I really enjoy a 3D one called Big Top Burger, um, which is about clowns that have a burger stand. Um, and it's just like cute, it's funny. Um, and there's so many. I feel like I should have come prepared for this. There is so many really, really good ones out there.
That's fine. You can think on it somewhere if you wanted to.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
but that's a 3D one. That's a 3D uh
hmm
platform one. What about a 2D one?
I mean, I really like Lackadaisy. And
I'm
that
sorry, what is it called?
Lackadaisy, they did really well
Lackadaisy?
with, yeah, cat characters during Prohibition, which is really cool. And also, I think a really good look into production of animated, like indie animated pilots and how they get made traditionally. It's not really tradition, like people are just making it up as they go at this stage, but
Mhm.
the creator had a really popular web comic for several years before they ran a successful crowdfunding campaign. And I think that's usually the traditional. I'm going to stop saying that. It's like usually the way it happens because you already have an inbuilt audience if you make something that people already like that has a much smaller commitment, like a web comic or like a social media following even. Because then you can reach out to people and say like, hey, I was considering making this pilot, like, will you fund it? They'll hopefully get it funded and then make the pilot. Whereas we didn't do that with Cassie Loves Cooking because myself and other people on the project have always had or found work more, I guess, the old school way, like when we're just handing in our resumes and doing an interview and getting a job. Whereas a lot of artists have found work just putting their stuff online and like people will fund them or buy things from them, like I guess straight to consumer. Whereas we've never done that. So we can't just get a pilot funded straight away. We have to sort of make it and then document online as we're making it, grow that fan base, and then fund the second episode. Like not the first, because we just don't have the fans to do that yet.
Right.
So like that being said, that's a huge I mean, it's about cats and it's amazing. I love Lackadaisy, but it's also a really good study into what works in this like emerging industry, I think.
Were any of these indie animation shows ever picked up by a big network?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of Vivzy pop stuff, like Has Been Hotel was picked up by Netflix and Amazing Digital Circus too, which is a 3D one, which are both really cool shows. They got picked up because they just did so well online. And I think that's why a lot of creators that want to break into animation are making pilots because they see that online visibility, like networks or studios will notice that and just say, hey, that's already very effective. We know people like it. It's like a surefire way. It's just going to work for them if they pick it up. They already know it has an inbuilt fan base.
I recently watched your latest video, and your worker-owned co-op business with your partners is called Flipbird. What was the
Yeah.
inspiration behind the name?
It was originally, I'm not going to say it, but and I'll tell you why. We originally named it something else, but we're not hiring like lawyers or business associates to help us create a business legally because we're just kind of doing this pretty low um budget.
Hmm.
So we just like made a business ourselves. We went through the legal way of doing that with the state of California. And it like asked you a bunch of questions like, oh, what's your business address? And I put out well, my home address on it. And it turns out that's public information that I didn't want out there. So I canceled
Hmm.
that, made a new one, and I had to change the name. The old one, that information is still out there. So that's why I'm not saying it, or anyone could just like look it up, right? And we chose Flipbird because of how animation traditionally works, like flipping the little pages of a notebook or film, right?
Okay,
Um,
I get that. Do you hope to one day own, and I'm not sure if I'm putting it in the words right. Do you hope to one day own a unit space or like a brick and mortar building to bring all the workers together in one setting for the future?
that's not something I've actually discussed with the other owners of the co-op, so I can't say for sure. You'd have to talk about it, but personally, no. Like, I just think everything can be done online now, and it would be a waste of money unless something drastically changed. Like, it was wildly successful. We had a lot of money, and maybe it would be different for, say, like tax purposes or payroll. I have no idea. So, like, that's just me saying that now. Ideally, no. I think I've worked remote successfully with so many people over the last few years that it's just not something I think is needed.
I actually had a different question to this one, but what is the representation behind Cassie Loves Cooking?
What do you mean by representation?
Um, I'm not sure if I'm even putting it right. I wanted at first I began like a mission, like the mission statement behind Cassie
Hmm.
Loves Cooking as it being an indie project. But I noticed that like some of the characters, Cassie is not your typical feline cat that would appear like very, very
Oh,
feminine.
yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
that's kind of
I
like
know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, we do have some like less traditional characters in the show, and it's definitely like a mix of what I inherited from that game. Like, Cassie is not the same character. Like, I wrote her differently.
Mhm.
But even from that game, like, she was like, she's not anymore, but like, she was a strong female like fighter pilot character lead. And the guy that wrote that really liked that. I think he just wrote what he loved, and I love that too. And I kept that about her. She isn't like she has a different build than a lot of, I guess, female leads.
Yes.
I feel like that has it's different even in animation, like having a smaller frame as a female character is usually what is depicted. It's changing, which is good. And she was always heavier set from the game, and I really like that. That wasn't my choice. I decided to keep it, and I changed her instead of being a fighter pilot to a cook, not because she is round. This is something I thought that suited her character, and she also happened to be round, and I thought that worked. So she's great, and it's cute. Like, people love cats of all shapes and sizes. And her best friend Jinxie is non-binary. It's
That's
not specifically said in like the the media, like the pilot that we're making, like their pronouns are included,
mhm.
but it's never sort of made a big deal out of. And I made that choice. She was originally another female cat, but I rewrote their character, and I just thought that that suited them the most. They're sort of meant to be like, I guess, more of a voice of reason to Cassie, who's a bit like wild. And I could never decided if I wanted that to be a more masculine or a feminine voice. So I was like, well, I can't. Like, it feels very, it could be either. So I decided on non-binary. And I very much think like also this could be like a hot topic with media, right? But I don't know if I did it for representation. It just is. And I guess that's the point of representation, but those people and characters exist like that, and they can just be. So they are. Like, it wasn't something I really decided to put more representation in. It's just who they are.
Okay. I didn't know if that was something like you were trying to, because I've come across it recently where writers discuss or they create characters based on people today who are very much marginalized. So I didn't know if that was something that Cassie Loves Cooking was also trying to represent people
That's
today that are
actually a
marginalized.
super question. I mean, I'd love that if they it does represent that to people. Yes. Good
Do you think that
question.
by doing so, do you think that by doing this kind of show that that you would be helping others, whether you know it or not, by giving them that type of voice to say, "Hey, we do exist, we are here, and we're here to
Yes.
make," yeah.
I mean, yeah, now that you talk about it, definitely. Like, it was part of the way I wrote the characters. Like, they all have interpersonal struggles. And yeah, I think that that does go a long way. Like I do want people to connect with the characters, and I try to write a story that I haven't seen represented from certain groups of people before.
Um, but because I originally thought that Space Cats came from, I really hope I get it right. Is it Jackbox?
No, I mean I have worked for Jackbox Games previously, who were a really nice company to work for,
Hmm.
but that's a different company. Space Cats in Space was,
Robotic Potato, I think, right?
yeah,
Okay.
that was the name of the company. It's been dissolved now because like it didn't work
Well,
out, but
this was interesting because I actually went back because you mentioned in your video that Cassie was derived from how it was from Space Cats, and I went back to the company. You said that the indie company shut down. You were given rights to the idea, but when I looked on their external LinkedIn, they still had that blurb that they were using Space Cats as a current developing 2D shooter. So when I clicked on the link, it led me to another site, and Robotic Potato is still in existence, but they're going about
mhm.
it from like a different platform. I didn't know if you had followed up on that.
No, I haven't. I mean, I just assumed that the company still has the website up from a long time ago, but I'll contact them to let them know if they wanted to take
Yeah.
it down. But that was definitely like how the project was
Hmm.
a long time ago, about 8 years ago now.
Okay, because right now I think they're doing something with like taking like they're testing like tech devices to see how valid that they actually work and what are the pros
Hmm.
and cons. That's all that I know so far. Every time when I try to click on one of their links, it's like it didn't really lead me anywhere except the blog. So I'm not sure if
Yeah, because
that's
the
still a thing.
company's not around anymore, just the website is.
Okay. One of the last questions I have is for all animators wanting to start their own indie animation show, and I know that you kind of break down the steps for them, but what would be the top 3 to 5 steps that you would advise them to do if they wanted to get started on their own indie animation show?
The first one is definitely to just like do it. And I know a lot of artists say, "Oh, just like do the art," but it doesn't really matter how old you are, how much money you have. The more time you invest into your animation and into your art, the better you're going to be. Like, I think it's just a lot of it is just practice. Like, I wish I'd done, whether it was successful or not, I wish I had done something like this when I was younger. And it does help to have a budget, but you can also just do it. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge production. You can make it really short. You can do it in a bunch of different styles. And like collaborate with as much friends as you possibly can, just to like put something out there. And it's never going to be a failure. And like I think about this with our my own work in this thing we're trying to make. Like, if it doesn't work, if we don't get the crowdfunding, you still did something, and that's really cool, and you gained a bunch of experience, and you could use that to go get a different kind of job or make another one. It's
Mhm.
never wasted effort, and just like if you're an artist, just like put yourself out there as much as you can, put your work online, and like you'll find your little group of people that will help you. And the other 2 points, I don't know if I have any. You just have to do it. And there's no, it's also another thing is like, it's a very new, indie animation has existed forever, but this whole like indie animated pilot episode, which would like mimic something you would traditionally see on television, has like been more of a thing in the last 5 years and has become quite popular. It's kind of where the industry is going. So I think, as I said before, like studios are looking more to indie because it's got a qualified audience. Like if your show does really well, they'll be like, it's more likely that they'll reach out because they know it's good, it's going to work out. So I almost feel like, yeah, like trying to pull resources towards indie, like never stop looking for like professional work if you really want to be an animator, but never stop doing your own stuff too, because online does make you really visible, and if your stuff takes off, good. And another big point is, like I said with Lackadaisy, you don't have to start with an animation. Like starting with something like a web comic or like your illustration online, to try to gather a fan base then before it turns into an animation, which costs a whole heap more money, is a really, really good thing. Yeah, if you can get an audience and you know people already like it, you can fund the animation up front and you don't have to just do it on your off time or without any budget. And it's a very tried and true method. Like the whole anime industry pretty much works like that, is they're all manga first. Because manga is really big in Japan. So if they have a certain amount of readers, they say, oh, we'll pick this manga to turn into an anime because it's got a lot of readers. So you can kind of mimic that yourself. You don't have to go straight into a pilot. That's what we did. I don't necessarily think that was the best choice. So, like, it's still very new. I don't know if fans are going to like this concept, but I would have known that if we had made any other sort of media first.
That's the second time that you mentioned web comics versus the physical
Hmm.
comic books that we see from like DC and Marvel, and I cannot think of the other
Yeah.
one right now. But did you actually do any kind of web comic for your site before?
No, I've never been a comic artist. I've always ever been, or always sort of been in animation. I think I could do it. It's got a lot of the same skills, but I just never have. And I think that's why I made the choice just to do an animation, and I wish I'd just done a webcomic or a comic. Like you mentioned, like a published comic versus webcomic. Being a published comic artist is its own job in of itself. Like I think you're not an animator at that stage. Like you're a for real comic artist, or you're making
Hmm.
like published graphic novels or manga, for example. Like that's your career path. But there's a lot of people that make, like, nothing's stopping you. You can make a web comic and then that can turn into an animation. I mean, so can a published comic, but it's usually not the the authors and the illustrators of a physical comic that are making the animation.
Right. When it comes to the web comics, do you know any in particular that our viewers should look at if they're interested in doing something like that?
There's a lot on. Actually I would just download Webtoon and find the ones you like. So
I'm sorry, what is it
web
called? Webtoon?
web Webtoon, yeah, it's primarily where people put a lot of their comics now. And you can just browse by category and find one you really like. But otherwise, yeah, check out Lackadaisy. It's cool. And it's like a really cool, like, goes from comic to indie animation.
For Cassie Loves Cooking, do you actually see that potentially becoming like an original animated film?
And not against the idea, but it was definitely conceived as a show. But if the demand was there, sure. I've never worked on animated film, only in TV. So it's not really my area of expertise.
Okay. So one of the last ones is, can you give us a brief tour of your studio setup?
Sure. So my studio is also my bedroom, which I think a lot of artists have that set up whether you're working like on your own stuff or at a studio. But um, this is my little room. So you can see it's like half my bedroom, right? But
Right.
um, I'm just taking my webcam back. This is my setup. I have my laptop over here, which is connected to my screen here, and I'm sorry, you can probably see yourself. Um, But this screen is also a Wacom, which means I can draw on it with a pen. And I'll illustrate all my and animate all my stuff like that. Um, some cute stuff up there, and then over here is my bed. So I'm it looks like I'm a total hermit that doesn't leave this room, but I do eat and exercise and stuff. But
Right.
I do sleep and work in here, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you go back to that second screen, not the laptop, but the second screen? And I'm sorry, what is it called again?
This is called a drawing tablet. I probably call it a Wacom because that's the company I use, but
Web
um a
drawing.
Wacom, Wacom.
Okay. I always pronounce it as Wacom. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, you can pronounce it like that. I don't really know the official way
Because
it's said, but
I do have a Wacom, but it's not as big as this. What's like the size of this particular tablet?
I
It's,
think this is like a 24-inch or something. It was the biggest one available about 5 years ago.
oh my
Which
goodness.
I regret getting the bigger size. I wish I had the size down just because when I'm drawing, like it hurts my arm because I have to stretch it really far up to like,
Okay.
and when I'm animating, it ends up only using like the tiny bit of the screen anyway. So I wish I kind of had the smaller one. I got this one secondhand. I've always had my tablet secondhand. So if you're considering getting one, go to eBay and get a secondhand one because it's going to be half the price and a lot of them are barely used. Like several of the ones I've gotten, I think an advertising agency has purchased them for like a specific job and then they don't have animators anymore, so they'll sell them off and they're way cheaper and pretty much almost new.
So when it comes to the drawing tablet, for that specific one, that doesn't look, is that what an Apple based tablet or no?
No, it's just a Wacom. I think the Apple tablet people use is usually just the iPad because they'll get a program called Procreate on it and you can draw and animate in that software and you can just draw straight on the tablet. A lot of people use that.
Okay.
And it's a lot more portable. Like you take it into your bed and stuff.
Okay. But for those of us that don't have, because I don't have Apple, but for those of us
Yeah.
that don't have something like that, what would be for Wacom, what would be a good option for them to get started off on a drawing tablet?
A smaller one and a secondhand one because it's not going to hurt your arm. You can carry it around and it's going to be cheap if it's secondhand. And any brand of tablet is good. Like I'm not a Wacom stan. I've always just used them because I just have had them. But I've heard a lot of the other brands out there are just as good. So if you're just starting, just get the cheapest, smallest one you can,
Mm.
is my recommendation. Like it's going to do the job.
Okay, because with the tablet, can you still draw, but are you able to still to like see on the laptop what it is that you are drawing in whatever program that would be?
Yeah, you can set them up in a bunch of different ways. Like you can have it mirror so you can see what you're drawing on one screen and the other, or it can just be an extension of the monitor, like display just like a secondary monitor would be. So mine pretty much functions as a second monitor that you can also draw on. And a lot of people, when they have a Wacom, don't ever use a mouse. They'll just use the tablet like or the pen just as a mouse.
Hmm.
Even when they're not drawing, because you can navigate with it. I don't do that. And actually, funnily enough, my show is has 2D rigs in it, so I'm not drawing every 24 frames a second like a lot of traditional animation does. I've set up a rig, which is like a little puppet that contains a bunch of different drawings that you can move around. So I'm often animating just with my mouse. Like I animate the rig characters with a mouse, and there'll be specific scenes that the rigs cannot do, and I will have to draw, but they're like limited amount of scenes.
One of the questions I wanted to get some clarification on, I think it was that same one where you were saying from let me see. Making animated pilot from from your bedroom when you were promoting Cassie Loves Cooking, not even with the
Mhm.
pilot yet, but when you were promoting it, you mentioned something about a program that is something called Deck. Is that's not Peer Deck, is it?
No, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
You're doing something, I'm trying to think of what that video was. I know it was from that specific video, but you used some sort of I don't know if this was that same advertising program where you made
Oh,
like
no,
a
no, I know what
deck.
you mean. Yeah, a
Yeah,
deck.
well, what is
So
that?
I just call it a deck. It's just like a slideshow that you'd make in PowerPoint. We used Google Slides. So it's not a
Okay,
program in of itself. It's like the thing that I made.
okay,
Um, and a lot of people in the animation world would call that a pitch deck because it's like a little summary of your show with your characters, a little bit about them and the art style and the story. And you'd go and take that and pitch to a studio, and if they like it, they'd produce it for you. But mine is not necessarily a pitch deck because I'm not pitching to studios. I'm putting it online and like hoping people will fund it.
okay.
So I'm just calling it a production deck, but it's essentially the same thing. Like it's very helpful if I wanted to show anyone or talk about my work, because trying to tell someone, particularly someone you've just met or isn't in the animation industry, like what you're doing with your life, and you're like, oh, I'm making a show that's animated about cats, they'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like really good to like bring something up and be like, this is what they look like and this is what they do. Like it's very, and even to talk to people that are part of the project, like if you're working with a voice actor or other artists, you can give them this, and it's a really good reference for anything they need. Like they know the characters, a personality, what they look like, how to draw them, how they would sound. So even though I'm not pitching, I still have a deck, and I think it's a very useful tool to have for an indie show. It also motivates you a lot. Like if you don't, it's just like somewhere you can put all your ideas together and you realize like, wow, like I have all these characters, I've written this super cool script and I know all about them. And it's like this little world that comes together, and it really solidifies it. It sort of makes you really want to keep working on this project because you can see it in front of you.
That's cool. And I'm sorry, it's all through PowerPoint, but you call it a pitched deck?
Pitch, Pitch.
Pitched
Like
deck.
I am pitching you an idea.
Okay.
I don't use PowerPoint, but you can. You can use PowerPoint or Apple Slides, or I use Google Slides. Any sort of presentation software, you can make one in.
Okay. And then there was something about the recording when you like do the pilot and you're doing like the different voice recording from whoever other person that you have for your pilot that is doing the voice of Cassie, of Jinx,
Mhm.
of the dog characters. This is all remote, or do they come to you and they work in the same bedroom studio?
We did it in person. You can do it remote. A lot of productions just find a voice actor online, and a lot of voice actors now have their own studios, so you can kind of trust that like the sound quality will be okay and they'll send over something good that you can just like edit together. But I wanted a little bit more control than that, only because I'm kind of doing a lot of it by myself with like a small group of people, right? So I just wanted to be the best as possible because like a lot of us haven't really done something to this scale before. So like the cleaner and easier it is to work with, the better for us personally.
Mhm.
That's why we chose that. So I set up a little sound isolation booth in my bedroom, and we there's a lot of different like tutorials on how to make those online. They're all still pretty expensive. Like they'll run you a few thousand, sorry, a few $100s just like going to get materials from Home Depot. So we ended up just buying a mobile changing booth on Amazon, which is like what someone would get changed in was like a cute little clothing pop-up store. Like it's just a like some steel beams with a curtain around it,
Okay.
and put a microphone in there and put a blanket on top, and it worked really, really well. And I'm thinking of actually making a video on how to do that because it's one of the most common questions I've had is like, how do you record your voiceover?
Okay. That'd be cool to actually do that from the platform. So, on a final note, what do you want to tell this audience about Cassie Loves Cooking and where do they find you, the newsletter? Tell us all about that.
Sure. So it's interesting. Like we love Cassie Loves Cooking, but our main motive was creating a worker-owned co-op that can give some animators full-time work, well paid, that's not gig work, and we can make something we really love. So Cassie Loves Cooking is sort of the show we've made, like this IP to try to like achieve that little great dream, and try to grow this like nice co-op business of artists. So Cassie Loves Cooking is like one of those things that we're trying to grow the business with. And again, we're not just funding a pilot, we're making the pilot with no money to try to fund episode two. So we're very grateful for people that are like sort of coming along for this ride at this point because we don't have something to just like show them. They're like watching it as we're building it. So if you ever want to check it out, like we really appreciate you and your love for this IP. And yeah, the show is about two cats that are defending their planet from a dog invasion secretly while they are streaming a cooking show. So there's meant to be like humor in that. Is it's like all their fans think they're just like these weird goofballs making a cooking show, but they're actually like trying to save the whole planet, and they're like trying to make sure no one knows that.
True. Just keep it very low key, right?
Yeah, and you can find it on YouTube if you just look up Cassie Loves Cooking. We also have a website if you Google Cassie Loves Cooking. It's cassielovescooking.com. And you also mentioned the newsletter, which is a really big part of our marketing strategy because we want to keep people that are like watching us making the pilot episode of this in a list so we can communicate to them and show them like real behind the scenes stuff and keep them around so we can hopefully ask them to help us fund it when the pilot is done and episode 2 is ready to get produced. We've had some really lovely interactions with people online so far.
That's cool. And
Um,
and I also did subscribe, and I also
Thank
downloaded the
you.
stickers, but I found out that it's not good to do it from the phone. I have to do it from the laptop because for some reason the is it called a GIF or a GIF?
Um, I say GIF, but I know people say both.
Okay, because I don't know, it came down with I think like 3 or 4 different files, and I tried downloading them, but it went somewhere else. I'm like, no, I think I better do it from the computer. And then I was
Hmm.
able to download the stickers. The only thing now is that I need to have some sort of a sticker printing paper. So that I
Yeah,
can do that.
yeah, that's good feedback. I'll have to keep that in mind, like how
Yeah,
many people are
I
actually
just
on mobile. Yeah.
yeah, because I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. So yeah,
Thank you.
no
The
problem.
stickers you can print them, and they're also digital because they're gifts. You can put them anywhere you want. Send them to your friends on social media, or text them, or put them on Discord.
Got it. Oh, can you actually tell us a little bit more about, have you started anything on Discord at the moment?
Yeah, we have a Discord, and it's something that's been so nice. Like a lot of people that have joined are also people making indie shows. So it's turned out to be like this really cute little community of people showing their art and drawing pictures for each other and talking about indie shows. And it's been one of my favorite parts of it is just like being surrounded by other people doing the same thing and all like trying to help each other has been really nice. So like if you're someone that does like watching artists do art or make shows, the Cassie Loves Cooking Discord is like a really nice place to see that process. Or if you're also an artist, you can come and join. It's great. There's a link on our website. There's a link to the Discord on YouTube. And also, if you sign up to the newsletter, you'll get a link as well.
It's cool. That's awesome. Well, I really enjoyed our conversation today, Rachel. Maybe the next
Thank
time I
you.
can interview you based on the actual book questionnaire. But this was great for today.
Thank
And
you
I'll
so much for
definitely,
having me on and just your very thoughtful questions. I haven't actually thought about a lot of them before, so it was really
mm.
nice to figure out how I felt about things.
Yeah, these are just questions that were sort of like on the whim after watching the videos. But for the
Yeah.
book questionnaire, I do send those ones ahead of time because that's like the foundation. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having
awesome.
me.
And well, wonderful talking to you, Rachel. And one day I actually want to come by and see the studio and maybe like experience what it's like for you to animate even just a 5 or 10 second snippet of the pilot or whichever. That'd be cool.
Sure, sure. That'd be a lot lovely. Come over whenever. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
Bye, Becca.